Welcome to the show, Jayar Mack. You are a producer, singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist, and have worked with, among others, Glenn Leonard of The Temptations, Billy Paul, and Grammy Award winners John Cicada and George Benson, just to name a few, as I say. You got your start in Chicago before a move to New York in 1983, where you were a much sought after and in demand keyboardist and studio session player. You've continued to write and record throughout the 90s and 2000s, and then finally, you released your first single under your own name in 2018, entitled You Make Me Feel So Good, along with a compilation album, The Very Best of Jayar Mack, in 2019, which chronicles your 25 years of recording career. There's loads to talk about with you, Jayar. Thank you so much for joining us. And please do tell us more.
Sounds like a lot to happen in 42 years, doesn't it? As Mr. Jett there can attribute to, we both have had an amazing ride, an amazing journey in this business, this vehicle called music. And I think one of the reasons why I gravitated to someone like Skyler is because of the fact that, like him, we both have such a deeper than deep love for this medium. I mean, it's the kind of love that literally flows deep within our veins like blood. And when it's deep like that, you cater to it. It doesn't cater to you. You don't choose it, it chooses you. So that's exactly what happened with me. There's a funny story that my family tells about the fact that I knew how to read at 2 years old because I was running around in diapers with 45s spinning around my both index fingers. And I'm running around the house, and my parents are wondering why I'm running around like a little baby / madman with 45 RPM records. I was so excited because I wanted them to know that I knew how to read the label on the 45s. I could read to them the title, the artist. I could read to them the songwriters, the music publishing companies, because they printed all that on those labels back then. And yeah, that's how they knew I knew how to read. And my parents were really taken aback by this because they'd never seen a kid so young be able to recite these things, could read them. So that's how early it started for me at 2 years old. And even then, the first things I read were musical. So it all makes sense, and it just all went from there.
And it's still going.
Yes, well, Skyler, you and I, you know what they say about us musicians. We don't retire, we die. So we're going to keep going until we can't go anymore. That's just the way it is.
What I love now, moving over here from the States, is that I'm closer to the rest of the world. And I'm meeting people in the rest of the world, and it's all music, man. I mean, I was in Portugal, and the talent is just off the charts. They're just super talented, right? I toured with a top band there over there, Black Mamba.
Okay.
And man, and they just play stadiums, man. It's like playing all these huge places, man. But no, man, it's nothing like it. And like I said, we got to grow it more. So you make it more international. That's what the labels back then, they wouldn't let us meet people over there, right?
That's right. That's true.
But we didn't have the internet, but now we got the internet.
Yeah, so it all ties together. I mean, we can all come together. That's why I think that's one of the main reasons why when you first spoke to me of this venue that you're promoting, the Music for Global Change, I just thought, what a great idea, and why did it take so long to unify and show the unity among the continents and things? Because you know, Skyler, as well as I do, that we didn't really realize any of this that you're talking about until we went out on tour. And we were allowed to work with the big names, the big boys, and they were going all over the world and different continents and things. That was my first time that I could see. And I remember Quincy Jones saying in an interview years ago, and I totally agree with him. He said, the amazing thing about being fortunate enough, music allowed us to be able to go to these places. This music was our vehicle to leave the States, to go overseas, to go to continents, and be able to get around as young people and see how other people do it. And, you know, up until then, you know, we didn't have, you know, the all of the technology that we have today. We had encyclopedias. That's what I had. You know what I mean? So if I wanted to see about what was going on in Paris, what was going on in Greece, what was going on in other, you know, continents, I had to read the encyclopedias and look at the pictures.
That's right.
But it doesn't really resonate for you until you get over to these places and see them with your own eyes. And then once you've seen them with your own eyes, and then listen to the music, how they create music over there. You know, because each place had its own unique way of presenting and promoting and marketing the music. And that was the first time that I had ever realized just how global and universal the language of music really is.
I inspire everybody to travel. Don't get locked in your area.
Because no matter where you go, you're a creature of habit. So you're going to exude the same habits and qualities and attributes that were reminiscent of your environment. Yeah. You know? So that's why, like you said, Skyler, and you're quite right about this. I found this to be the case in my own travels, you know, touring with all of these people. You know, again, the imperativity of learning how other people do it and to find that your way based on what your environment consists of is not the only way. It's just a way, not the way.
And it's all the same 12 notes.
Exactly. And that's the catalyst right there. That's what Quincy used to say that all the time. Same 12 notes. And he's right.
No matter what, right?
No matter what combination, no matter what, you know, equation, still same 12 notes. You're absolutely right.
You know, my mom said, you know, you could go to school for music all you want. It's still going to come down to how does it feel?
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. That's why I've never tried to in any way condescend or minimize the gravity of young people's being able to play. If they started out playing, for instance, piano by ear, it's great to know the classics. It's great to get the schooling and to know the rules. But as Herbie Hancock and Charlie Parker and others have said in previous interviews, that rules are made basically to keep some sort of order. But at the same time, the paradox is that they're also made to be broken. We are expected as creative forces of energy to expand. How can you expand if you always play by the rules?
Well, and see, that's where Miles Davis says there are no bad notes.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Matter of fact, he even took that a step further and said, it isn't the bad note that you think is the bad note. It's actually the next note after it that determines whether or not that last one was a bad note.
Well,
yeah, I just want to just briefly touched on it in the intro for you there. It's been quite a long period of your career. You weren't releasing your own music. You only really started to in 2018. Was it a particularly hard getting into somebody to actually release your music, or what was the reasoning, if there was one?
No, that's a
Took
that's
so
a
long.
that's a very good question, Tom. And I'm glad you asked that question because people ask me that all the time, especially people that are just discovering Jayar Mack now.
Mm.
And one of the main reasons, and Skyler, I know you can relate to this. I guess the best way to answer it would be to say, just picture this in your mind. I'm a multiracial kid living in the west side of Chicago in the 1960s, 1970s, listening to all of my musical idols on record players. We had record players back then, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Daydreaming and wondering what it would be like to actually meet these people. Not even be in the same room, just what it would be like to meet these people, to be around them, not knowing in my wildest dreams that the day would come years later when I would get that opportunity. When you grow up like that, and I started on drums when I was 5. My father bought me my first drum set when I was 5. So by 7, I knew exactly what to do. And then I moved on to bass guitar and a little bit of guitar. And then 1972 came and Stevie Wonder dropped Superstition. When anybody asks me, is there any particular record that changed your life? That was it for me because of the amazing, brilliant clavinet work that he did on that record. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm remember now, I'm a kid. So I'm listening to this and I'm completely going out of my mind. I don't understand how is he able to give us this amazing, clavinet parts. Of course, to find out later on it was multi-track 3 times. Mm. But the point is that the output was so rich. And right. I just stopped everything I was doing, everything I was playing at the time. I wanted to do what he was doing. And right. I'm a kid now, so I'm thinking in my mind, little kid mentality. Now, if he's blind and can do all this, I can see, you know what I mean? I can see what I'm doing. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this, right? So that's when I jumped into piano and keyboards and synthesizers, something fierce. From the time I was like 8 or 9 years old to this day, very day. So of course, I'm taking the roundabout way, but here's your answer, Tom. What would happen is that I lived in the Delaware Valley, for instance, for like 20 years, and that included Philadelphia. So I was very, very into the sound of Philadelphia, of what Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff had done with Philly International Records and Tommy Bell and them in the 70s. I got there probably around the late 80s, early 90s. But the musicians that played on all of these records were still there. The producers, the arrangers, people like that. Skyler, you and I have a mutual friend who actually started as Tommy Bell's protege as a songwriter. And he ended up working with you when you were working all those years, all those great years you worked with Nard or Michael Walden. And his name is Preston Glass, by the way. You know Preston.
I talked to him 2 days ago.
There you go. See, there you go. So everybody that was on Philly International, all of a sudden, you know what they say, cream eventually rises to the top. When you're able to do something that makes you stand out from everybody else, whether it be vocals or keyboard work or whatever you can do as a producer, arranger, songwriter, whatever, people start to notice. And then they start talking about you. And that's what was happening to me. I was getting noticed in Philadelphia. Probably the big break that I got that kind of put me in that mix, in that clique, as it were. A great man, a late great man who I truly love and adore. And you know who I'm talking about, Skyler. I'm talking about John Whitehead from McFadden and Whitehead, who wrote and produced great songs for everyone.
Ain't no stopping us now.
Ain't no stopping us now. That was the one. So him and Terry Price, who was Teddy Pendergrass's producer at the time, they had started a production company and a label called Caprice back in, we're talking like 91, 92. And they were looking for artists. They were looking for songwriters. John, God bless him, he saw in this songwriter what he liked. And he felt that he could take me under his wing and I could be his protege. Mm-hmm. And that's really how the whole ball of wax started for me. As a result of being with him, he introduces me to Patti LaBelle. He introduces me to Tommy Bell. He introduces me to, you know, Harold Melvin.
Brought you in.
So everybody in that was pretty much signed to Philly International, I had the pleasure to either work with, tour with, record with, produce, or something. And so I had been wanting to do an album for the longest time. But every time I would sit down to write and work on my stuff, either the Delphonics would call, Stylistics would call, somebody would call me. And I was afraid that if I said no, Tom, they wouldn't call me again. And, you know, that's like a once in a lifetime type of thing, you know, for these people to even know I exist, much less call me and say, we want you on stage with us. So there was no way, man, I was going to say no. I just kept saying yes. And saying yes turned into like 30 years of saying yes. So something had to suffer, of course. And of course, my recording career kept being put on hold. That's what it was.
Well, listen, man, I hear that you just wrote a social conscious tune, though, right?
That actually was during the period I was in Philadelphia. I got the opportunity to work with a studio kind of confection called Naked Soul. And there was a guy by the name of Bryant Hudson, and he had brought me some stuff that he was working on to see if he felt it, you know, to see if I felt it had any musical merit. So we hooked up around 2000, 2001, and wrote an album full of songs, and we called it Leap of Faith, which is on my Best of Jayar Mack album. But the Save a Life song is our kind of the We Are the World kind of.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
That's the one you saw. Yeah. And that one, there was a girl named Gaia Songbird, and she was a great poetess. The people that I usually collaborate with are usually already lyricists or poetesses who want to become lyricists. So I kind of help them and take them under my wing the way Whitehead and other great songwriters took me under their wing. And I try to help them make that transition. So she wrote some beautiful, beautiful lyrics about the state of the world back in 2001, which I feel like these lyrics are just as apropos today as they were back then. We wrote it, and we put it out, and we had a lot of different special guest singers on it, and it turned out pretty good. That was how Save a Life basically came to be, and my hope is that we've already passed the 20th anniversary of the Leap of Faith album by Naked Soul. That was our first release on Dakota Records, which is our label here, our small independent label. And so we're hoping to re-release that album to the masses again with bigger and better major label distribution. So people will really get a chance to really listen to Save a Life if they never had a chance to listen to it before.
Right on, brother. We're going to spread the word.
If you can let us know, let the listeners know what kind of social media, if any, what kind of websites you've got, and I'll put the links to all those things in the description of the video for you. So if you just let us know how people can interact with you and see what you're up to.
First of all, we have my website, which is www.jrmac.com. And then our record company is Dakota Records. So that would be www.Jacoda, Jacoda records.com. And that has all of the music and all of the history. And of course, my personal website has, all of my personal and professional endeavors. And of course, you can always reach us through Jacoda Records and Entertainment. JacodaEntertainment@gmail.com. All of that information has contact information on how you can get in touch with us, how to purchase our music and videos and everything. Of course, we have a video channel on YouTube called Jacoda Music. So you can just go to Jacoda Music on YouTube and you can see a lot of our videos and things like that. And by the way, let me just mention this, is that we got probably the biggest, greatest news that our record company has ever had. And that was when that song you referred to earlier, the first single, You Make Me Feel So Good, actually Not only did the remix go #1 in Brazil, but it went #7 in the UK, #2 in Canada. And according to Cashbox magazine, it went to #25 here in America, which, you know, for veteran artists like Skyler and I, you never think that, you know, you're going to have a top 20 record at this point in your career. So I am very thankful to the almighty above for that.
Thanks for coming on, my brother. Much love.
Skyler, thank you so much, man, for everything you do. And you know I'm going to always support the music for global change.
All the best. Much love,
Take
man.
care.
Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all get together, music can save the world. Yeah. Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all come together, music can save the world. There's an urgency facing our humanity.
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.